everyone, Paul ISM. Welcome to part 1 of our Monogram 70 Plymouth GTX video build. So I'm building this as part of the USACC, which is Unified Scale Automotive Content Creators Group build that's being hosted by Lucas C and Mark Batson. Saw this online on one of Throttle Power, Tim's videos. I thought, you know what, I'd like to take part in it. I made a video the other day, if you've seen it, like an intro video to the build. And Sean White very kindly sent me a kit he had in the stash, because this thing's hard to find in the UK. And by the look of it, a few of the guys in the States are struggling as well. So, yes, I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick one up and try and take part in the build. And here we are. This is part 1. So we're going to do all the bodywork today. We're going to get all prepped, primed, primered. So prepped, primed and primered. We're going to get the body prepped, primed, painted, decaled, give it a wash, maybe paint some stripes on it, and give it a clear coat today. So that's what part 1's going to deal with. So there we are. If you want to take part in this or have a look at the process of what's going on, there's a YouTube links everywhere. Just search for USACC and it should show up for you. There's loads of people taking part. And there's a Facebook group as well, which I'll link in the description of the video down below. So you can go and have a look. And if you're a content creator, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you can take part in this. There are some rules to the build, and it has to be these specific kits. But if you look online, there's videos explaining what's allowed and what is eligible to build. So let's get started with the build, and let's jump straight in after these words. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. You now have the chance to support the video content creation by using Patreon or the PayPal me link in the description down below. All the videos always remain free to watch. This is just your chance to help support the videos. So let's get our Plymouth GTX prepped for primer. So we've got quite basic instructions, but certainly clear enough to show us what we need to do. As long as you see the model builder, this should prove pretty easy, to be honest. So basic steps to go through. This kit was a very kind gift from one of my viewers, supporters, Sean White. Thank you, Sean. You're an absolute legend, mate. And some of the parts are cut off the sprues, some of them are loose in the bag, so it is what it is, and we'll build it as we go. So, couldn't do a proper inbox review, so I just did a basic review, overview of the kit. But I'm going to pick off all the parts that need painting in body colour. This is moulded in quite nice blue plastic, actually. We've got some wicked seam lines that behind that C pillar, and in front of the A pillar as well. And a few sections like this rear light fitting that's going to need gluing in place as well. Now, one word of warning, the parts on this are very, very brittle. As I found out here, as I cut that, and it takes a chunk out the bonnet. As you can see, nice chunk out the plastic, very brittle plastic. So luckily the hood bonnet, yeah, the C, I said a different way as well, is a little bit longer than it needs to be. So I just sanded the whole thing very lightly across, and it fitted perfect with no trouble at all. Just hit it with a 240 thinny stick. Very, very careful, just going across the whole thing and then checking it fits. I've also cut off the locating points underneath because I never have them hinged. They're either on or off, and there we go. Fixed my mistake. A little bit of a rookie error by me. Like I say, I didn't realise the plastic was so brittle, but it is. So forewarned is forearmed, or forewarned is forearmed, should we say. We've got the hood scoop to put in place as well. So that was cut off, cleaned up, and glued in place with my Tamiya Extra Thin Mix. We've got it in the open position. You can do either open or closed. Both options come in the kit, which is a nice touch. And then this rear light cluster just needs fitting in place. Now, it does kind of click in place. It is quite precise where it fits. So make sure it sits in the right position before you hit it up with the glue. And then get the Tamiya Extra Thin Mix in there. Let the capillary action carry it and glue it in place. So as long as you don't mess around with these things, move them around, you won't get any molten plastic showing through, and you'll have very little cleanup to do at the end. So my mix of Tamiya is a 50-50 mix of Tamiya and EMA Plasti Weld. You could use mech or any other highly hot adhesive for plastic, which melts the plastic rather than glues. On the rest of the body, we've got some seam lines and flash to clean up, so I've opted to use a knife on the larger parts, like so. Quite a bit on the sills of the kit. And then hit it up with our thinny stick again and get rid of most of it. Usually makes an absolutely horrific noise sanding this part of the car, which you in my live stream would have heard live. And then the wheel arches, we've got a 220 grey sponge in there just to clean up those wheel arches of any flash or excess plastic. And there's a little bit of flash on the front edge of the wings fenders. So just a quick light sand over will take care of those. We've got a little bit of a seam over the back end of the boot lid trunk, and that goes over the top part of it as well. But by far the worst seams are behind those pillars just there. They are an absolute pain to deal with. I had the exact same problem when we built the Super Big, because it's a very similar body to that one. And you can see it there. As I sand it, you'll see the seam become more apparent as it goes white. And it's just in a really tricky spot to sand. So I went at it with a sanding sponge, and it started to take it down, but not quite quick enough. So I came in with a sanding stick in the end to take care of it. So while we've got the sponge out, we're going to go around and scuff up all the body. So it's going to flat all the plastic. Quite dirty plastic to work with because it's so brittle. But we're going to flat it all for preparation of primer. In the end, I grabbed a thinny stick, 240 grit thinny stick from UMP to deal with this seam, and it dealt with it really quickly. So just be careful. You don't want to reprofile the part or reshape anything or put a dent in it or a ridge. So just some careful sanding where you need it. And then we're coming with the sponge and just keep checking and just keep rinsing, repeating until it's gone. Like I say, it is quite a tricky seam to deal with, as is this one on the front A-pillar too. But with some diligence, care and patience, they can be dealt with quite quickly. Once we've got that off, we can get our toothbrush, our Mickey Mouse toothbrush, and get rid of all the sanding dust out of all the nooks and crannies and the seams and recesses. As we always say, preparation is key for paint. So the better job we do now, the cleaner a paint job we'll have later on. So there we go. We can get rid of all that. As you can see, I've gone around and mostly scuffed all the body up. Done the same to the bonnet as well. So we've got nice flat paint. Now my paint stand, we discussed this down the live stream. I've painted over 130 cars with this paint stand. You can see the original thickness of the metal sprung wire at the top and how much paint it's accumulated over the years. Like I say, 130 plus cars I painted with that stand, and it definitely shows an accumulation of paint. So we'll pop that on, we'll secure that in place with some masking tape so it doesn't fall off. And then we're going to give it all a wipe over with some UMP airbrush cleaner. You could use isopropyl alcohol or anything like that. But don't use anything too aggressive. So don't use lacquer thinner because that'll melt the plastic, or acetone. But what we're doing here is we're degreasing it. So we've gone 3 steps here. We've gone flatten all the paintwork with our sander to make sure we've got a nice, even, flat surface. That remove any surface blemishes. It'll also key the plastic for primer by putting thousands of micro abrasions in the surface. We've gone over it with our toothbrush, remove any dust out the nooks and crannies, and then hit it with our airbrush cleaner to fully degrease any fingerprints or nasties that might be on the body. Once you've done that, get the clean, dry side of the kitchen paper and just go around and dry it all off. So as I say, preparation is key, and as long as you securely mount it to the Tamiya stand, you'll never need to handle the kit, and you're not going to get any more fingerprints on there or what have you. With the bonnet, we've got a nice 3M sticky pad cut to size on an old UMP Decal Solutions bottle that's full of water. Well, the bottom half is, with a little bit of cardboard at the bottom for some stability, and then we hit that up exactly the same, flat it back, get all the dust off it, go over it with the UMP airbrush cleaner, and here we are on the spray booth. We are ready to go. So we've got some decanted Tamiya fine surface primer at the spray can. It's been decanted, it's been left off gas for 6 to 8 hours. It's been thinned with Tamiya lacquer thinner retardant, about 20%. And we're going to put down several light coats, probably 3, maybe 4 light coats of the primer, building it up until we get a nice even primer coat. So we've gone over it with our anti-static brush, and we're giving it a quick blow over with air off the airbrush. We're at about 16 psi, we've got a 0.3 needle, And we're going to, like I say, put down a few light coats to begin with and then slightly heavier at the end. Now, I do end up with a little bit of blemish on this. I have absolutely no idea how or where it came from, but on that rear wing there, that side on the right-hand side, I end up with like a weird line string of paint. I've no idea, it just appeared out of nowhere, so I've got no idea where it came from, but it certainly did. So we have to let it dry, flat it back, and I'll show me fixing the blemish in a little bit. But I do really rate the fine surface primers. Out the can, they spray really well. We have a massive wastage of paint with the plume of spray that comes out. If you decant it and thin it a little bit, it sprays absolutely beautiful. Self-levels, dries really quick, which is the main reason why I've switched over to lacquers now. A few people have asked this. And it just helps with my painting style. Obviously, I am on a timeline. This is my job, so time is important in this. So that way I can prime in the morning and paint at night. Using a water-based primer like our UMP primer, I'd leave it overnight just to make sure it's all fully dry. I've sped this up because you don't want to see all this being done. But it's basically just putting down a nice even coat to begin with. And then we come back in with alternating patterns and then start getting wetter coats down. Now the Tamiya primers and the TS paints do like to go down wetter. They are an aerosol spray after all. So your end layers should go on wet. Same with the bonnet as well. Make sure you get a nice even coat everywhere. Don't aim to try and cover it all in the first coat. Just aim to get a nice even coat to begin with. And then after several coats, as you can see here, we've got nice even coverage. Now you may notice a new airbrush there. That's an Iwata HPC Plus. So this was my favourite Iwata airbrush I had. Just going to remove a bit of a hair out of the primer. And Roland got one and it got me thinking. I thought, you know what, I kind of miss having that airbrush. So I sold a few kits. Thought, you know what, let's invest it in an airbrush. Still got my Apexes. They've not gone. But I'm going to start switching up a little bit and going back to the Iwatas a little bit. I've always liked them, always rated the Iwatas, especially over the Harder and Steenbecks. It's a controversial subject, I know, but after owning all these airbrushes myself, I can have an informed opinion. So, like I say, nothing is replacing anything. It's just a fact that I've added a couple of different tools to the arsenal. As you can see there on the body, lovely, nice, smooth paint finish. So we've got a bit of a blemish, so we're off camera, we're letting everything dry. I do need a top up of primer. So I've got my grey surface primer in a can. I've got a straw, which I've had to put a little slit in to get it to fit over the nozzle of the paint. I've got my empty primer jar, and a glove on, and we're going to decant the paint into the jar. Now I've sped this up because it took a while to do. But basically, you just do this till it's full, put it to one side, rest the lid on top, do not tighten the lid up. Otherwise, you'll have an explosion of primer as it off-gasses in and pops the lid off. Then it does it quite violently as well. Many different ways of doing this. People are going to say, oh, why don't you use blue tack? Why don't you do X, Y, and Z? This is the way I do it. You can put a hole in the can. I don't always want the whole can out, though. I just want what I need to fill that bottle. So it sometimes isn't always the best way, but it works well for me. That's left to one side for 24 hours, probably I'll leave it for. And then I'll put about 20% Tamiya lacquer thin with retarder in, and this is where we go then. So this blemish on the back, I've sanded back, removed it, feathered all the edges of the original primer, and we're just going to put down a couple of coats over the top to cover up the blemish. So we put a light coat down, come back a couple of minutes later, put another little bit more on that spot, and then I flattered the entire car while I was at it, and we're just going to put another couple of light coats down over the top. And to be honest, this will make your primer coat even smoother. So it's always a good step to do anyway, but it certainly fixes that flaw. As you can see, you can't even see where that was. And we do the same, exactly the same for the other side. And on cars like this, make sure you get all the angles, all the recesses, the wheel arches, everywhere, and be nice and thorough. Now, the primer's dried overnight. It's the next day now. And we've got our Tamiya 3000 sponge, some water, and we're just going to lightly go over the surface and flatten it all. And that will remove any high spots, any spits, any debris that's landed in there, which there wasn't any really. It was quite clean. And once you've done a section, you can just dry it off with a clean piece of kitchen towel and just have a visual look for any flaws in the primer. So I go over the entire model doing this, as you can see. Not using a massive amount of water, you don't need a huge amount, it just needs to be nice and clean, and dip the sponge in there regularly. That way you get a bit of lubrication, it cuts down on the scratches in the primer, and don't go too heavy, because if you go too heavy, you're going to burn through the primer and you have to put some more primer down. So practice will make you good at this, and only go in side to side or crisscross patterns. Don't go round and round. Now, paints there, I've got Scale Finishes Dodge F8 Dark Green that my buddy Joe from Yellow Cape Modelling sent me many moons ago. I've waited for a car to use it on, and this is the perfect car, so it's what we're going to use it on. Now, I didn't know this was enamel lacquer, so I contacted Scale Finishes. They got back to me and said this is a lacquer. So, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't very impressed with it at all. It dried very rough. I tried spraying it in numerous different ways, and I just couldn't get it to lay down on the surface smoothly like I do with like some Gravity, Zeros, and what have you. But the end result still looks great. It just dried with quite a gritty, grainy surface. Now I'm spraying normally at about 16 psi. I tried 16, 20, and settled on 20 in the end. The coverage is good. It does go down really well. But yeah, I don't think it's something I'll be using in the future. I think I'll stick with my normal Gravities, Zeros, TSs, LPs, and what have you. But the colour is nice, very suited for this car. Nobody likes the colour, as been proven by some of the comments on Facebook. But hey, it can't please everyone. And it's a period correct colour for this car, and I'm happy with it. So at this point, I wasn't quite sure what kind of paint this was, so I just sprayed it very carefully. Put nice light coats down, building it up nice and slow, and working my way around the entire model until it was done. Because like I say, I wasn't sure if it was a lacquer, enamel, what was going on, but it was confirmed it definitely is a lacquer paint. So we're all good to go here. Like I say, I was going to build this up slowly, probably going to get about 7 coats of this in total. I did flatten it at the end as well and give it another flat coat, another coat as well, just to make sure it was nice and level, because it did feel a little bit rough. It wasn't the nicest paint to use. So sped this footage up now. I'm just going to go through and get some nice even coverage on the first coat. So again, get all those nooks and crannies. The engine bay, I'm assuming, is probably going to be a different colour. I'm probably going to go with black, as I did on the Super Bee. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. But we're going to make sure we get all the bottom creases and the shut lines and make sure everything is fully covered. So, like I say, we're at about 20 psi. We've got the Iwata HPC Plus 0.3. Just putting down nice light coats till we build it up. And the depth of colour we got off this, it's nice. It is a really nice colour. It's got a very, very fine gold flake in it, which looks absolutely stunning at the end. It really does look good. And really comes alive under 2K, as most paints tend to. Like I say, pay particular attention to those bonnet shuts. Whether you're going to paint it in a different colour, you still need to make sure you get your full coverage in there. So make sure you go on around the windows, in and under the top, under all the door handles, in the vents, any grills, wheel arches, sills are very easy to miss. And just be thorough, and yeah, you'll be good to go. So, like I said, while not the best paint, it weighed down all right. It wasn't too bad, but it's definitely not a paint I'll be using again, for sure. So that's probably just about 1 coat for us. So we'll put that in the drying box, which is just a box, for 15 minutes. This is after about 3 coats. Now on camera, it looks really patchy. To the naked eye, it looks fine. I don't know what it is about the camera, but it just looks really patchy. Now, you can see that grainy surface I'm talking about. This is after another couple of coats. This is probably what? About 6 coats, I'd say. Roughly about 6 coats. And you can just see that rough texture. It's probably the metallic flakes, I'm guessing, showing through. But it's a wonderful colour, and it's definitely a period correct colour for the car. I think it's going to look great. As you can see, I'm alternating between side-to-side passes and up and down. That way we're getting all those panel lines and door shuts. And there we go. This is our 7th and final coat. We've got nice coverage, nice depth of colour. The colour looks really good, really good. The metal pigments aren't too big. They're nice and small. And like I say, it's like a gold flake in this paint, and it looks really nice. So it did come out really well. So I found a reference picture of the car in this colour. It had a black stripe on the bonnet, and I thought, should I do it? And I thought, you know what, let's do it. So we're going to pop on the black stripe as well. First of all, though, we're going to get the silver logos done. Now, I've done this by brush before with Vallejo silver paint. I bought these silver paint marker pens a while ago. These are nicely pronounced letterings on this car, and I thought, you know what, I'll probably be able to get it with this marker. Bit of a risk, because if it went wrong, I'd have to respray it. But pump the pen a few times, get the paint to flow through, dry the nib off, run it over a piece of paper like I've got down below there, as you can see, and you won't get masses of paint on the tip. And then just touch it lightly on the piece you want to get the paint on. Don't dwell too long, and it lays down really nice, and it's a nice metallic finish. They do take a bit of a time to dry these, so don't touch them as it'll come off. But as a metallic finish on the badges, they look really, really good. So there you go, just wiping off any excess paint that comes through. And it is a paint marker. I think it's the Edding 780 silver paint marker. I've got them in various colours, and they do work really well. The back was a little bit trickier because the letters are much smaller, so needed a much more delicate touch. Because the worst thing you can do is let the paint pen dwell on the letter, because the capillary action will pull the paint through and it will pool around the letter rather than sitting proud on top of it. So it was a case of just touching it and very lightly writing over the top, but it did go down really well. Did go down really, really well. And then the Plymouth on the back as well. Like I say, you need steady hands. I've got my Tamiya magnifying glasses on. Steady hand, bit of patience, and just be very careful. Like I say, if you slip or if any paint goes around that lettering, you're probably going to have to strip and repaint that section, or at very least repaint it. So yeah, take your time doing this if you fancy doing it. And if not, a safer option is to use something like Vallejo Model Air Silver. That way you're putting a water-based paint on a lacquer and you can almost get it back off. Almost certainly get it back off. I did the door locks as well on the doors and the boot lid too. And there we go, they look really good. The door handles we'll get later on when we do the window surrounds, just because they're bigger parts. That doesn't look bad, does it? Not too bad at all, quite neat, nice and tidy. Looks really good. So like I say, they mentioned stripes on the bonnet. So looking at reference pictures, which I was lucky to have. If you saw my little video intro into the USACC video build, content creators build, you'll see the reference pictures I had of the car. So looking at where the stripes go, they go from these intake vents in front of the windscreen. So I just lined it up there, lined it up by eye across the front of the bonnet. Got my metal ruler, I think it was 9.5mm right to the edge. So just make sure it was a straight edge across there and across the back as well. So they're equidistant both sides, big word. Then I needed a stripe in the middle. So we got a piece of the 1mm tape and lined it up right next to that piece as well. And we're just going to use this piece of tape as a spacer. So it'll leave a perfect 1mm gap in the center, which would be 24mm in real life, just under an inch. So looking at my pictures, looked about right, looked to be about an inch gap. And if it's not, it'll do me, it's perfect. And then we put another piece of tape at the other side, like so. And smooth that out. Once we're happy we've got that laid in right up to the piece of tape, we know we've got a nice straight edge then right in the center. Like that. We can peel off that middle section of tape. And we've got a perfect gap. So that way we get a nice black line there. And it'll be green underneath. That very thin one. Repeat that for the other side. And then we can come in and infill the outer edges. So The bonnet's getting sprayed, as is the top of the scuttle panel. I call it the scuttle panel, the windscreen wiper panel, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to continue it on. So we tape down the bonnet onto the body. Now there are window wipers built in, so you need to burnish down the tape around the window wipers to make sure you don't get any bleed through. And then masking wise, I did want to go near those letterings I did, so we couldn't use any cling film. Should have thought of this first. So with a whole plethora of tape, quite a bit, we've made a mask set which folds around. Yes, it works. It's a bit odd, but it works. So black stripes and the hood itself, we're going to paint in Mr. Servicer 1500 black. Just very, very carefully. Very nice light coats. Build it up slowly. Probably 2 or 3 light coats. I think it's about 3 in total. Just to build it up so you get even coverage all around. Make sure you get those edges and the mask part and the front as well. And I've also put a bit of tape under the bonnet vent as well. Make sure you're getting the sides of there, because I actually forgot and had to respray that a little bit more later on. Just make sure you don't get any paint going over the back of the model and ruin any hard work. And then with that unmasked, nice and gentle. As you can see, the paint doesn't look bad. It is a little bit rough to the touch, but looking at it, it's nice and clean. And always a nerve-wracking moment taking off masking like this. Are we going to get any bleed through? Are there going to be any problems? What do you think? Are we going to get any bleed through? No way. There's no way I'm going to get any bleed through. A little bit off camera. My camera's moved in the spray booth. I've noticed this through this video. It's a little bit too close. It needs moving back and up a bit. So in the next video, I'll make sure it's in the right position, because I'm cutting off the very front of this. You can't see me removing the tape. It's very satisfying doing this. There you go. Look, absolutely perfect. Perfectly straight. No bleed through whatsoever. Absolutely perfect. Very happy with that. That looks great. Now the decals, we've got the near, what are these now? Nearly 40 years old, so like 36-year-old decals. Always a bit of a touchy thing. Are they going to be okay? What we're going to do? And again, reference pictures of this car with those bonnet stripes has these goldy yellow stripes on the side of it. And I thought, you know what? They're not my usual thing, but I do quite like the look of them. It's on the car I'm using as reference. So let's do it. So into some room temperature water. And they came off the sheet perfect. I got that one in place first time, almost absolutely perfect on that front wheel arch. Just needed to lift it off and move her up just a touch. But really nice decals actually for the age of them. Absolutely fine. Went down no problem whatsoever. Like I said, just need a little tweak there. It was pretty much perfect. So we get our water pen, nothing in this. I just like it for the brush. It's just got water on it right now. I'm just going to push it all down. Make sure there's no creases. And work it into where we want it. There we go, perfect. Then we get a cotton bud on to get rid of any excess moisture. Just nice and gentle, no pressure. And then we come with our decal solution. So I went with UMP normal on these to begin with and settled with the strong to get them set in place. Other side was a little bit more tricky. I didn't quite get this one lined up instantly, but we got it there in the end. And again, no problems with the decals. They're not even thick decals, they're nice and thin. And a little bit of heat, as you can see here, and the UMP normal and strong solutions. They lay down perfect, really nice. They really look the part. Again, I know not everyone's cup of tea, but I really like them, and I think they go really well with the colour. I just like these decals. I like the colour clash with the green and yellow. Door shuts just need a little bit of a nick with a knife. So with a brand new blade in that knife, we're just gonna get him a little slice. You need to kind of judge when to cut this, because you don't want it to fully dry, but you don't want it to be wet. And once you've cut it, get a bit of decal solution on your brush and just lightly dab it in. And there you go. Repeat that for the other 3 and jobs are good. And there we go. There we are. We're decaled. Got the silver metallic emblems done. We've got the lovely stripes on the bonnet done. And I think it looks great. I'm very happy with this. We've got the silver on the wheel arches to do, the marker lights on the side, the windows, and the door handles. We're going to do those after 2K with Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Chrome. That's what I did on the Super Bean. It looked great. But for now, we're going to do that. Now, as soon as I found out it was the lacquer, I knew I could put the Tamiya enamel washes on. So I'd left it and waited for this. And it's just a case of going around all the model into the recesses, letting it touch, let the capillary action flow through, and then leaving it 10 minutes or so, and with a cotton bud and tissue, lightly wipe it off. So very careful application, very careful removal. If any of it won't come off, put a little bit of odorless mineral spirits on a piece of tissue paper and just gently wipe it off. Don't go crazy. You don't want to be wiping like hell. And as I always say, once you've done it, you think it's done, put it down 10 minutes, come back, have a look. I'll almost guarantee you've missed a spot because I do it all the time. So that's left to dry overnight in my nice warm modelling studio. We've got in the spray booth, which has all been freshly cleaned out, fresh paper, fresh filter, the lot. Filter's been run for 10 minutes, the window is shut, and we've got our Gravity 2K clear. So we've mixed 9ml of clear, a little bit too much today, it's hard to judge. We're going to mix that with 3ml of hardener, as you can see there, that was a 2 and a 1 of the hardener activator. We then mix that up, give it a really good stir to get the chemical process in action. And then we're going to throw that pipette away. Once it's empty, give it a good squeeze out, make sure there's nothing left in there. And then throw it away, never to use it again. And with a fresh pipette, we get the thinner, and we have 3ml of thinner. So it's a 3 to 1 to 1 mix. So for every 3ml of clear, you add 1ml of hardener and 1ml of thinner. So with 9ml of clear, we have 3ml of hardener and 3ml of thinner. Once that's in, give it a good stir up. It will go cloudy, but it'll clear as you give it a really good stir up. And there we go. I always strain it, always do as a matter of course. So through a 190 micron paint strainer into a new medicine cup. And again, the medicine cups will all go in the bin when they're done. And with a Tamiya anti-static brush, we'll go around and give everything a bit of a wipe. Now, I get a bit of muck in this one today, quite a bit of dust. No idea where it's come from, but we do. Swings and roundabouts, sometimes we get none, sometimes we get a lot, and there's quite a bit in this, but it's only the dust, there's no hairs or anything, so it'll just need flat and batten polishing at the end, which we do anyway, so there's no real drama to do that any extra. But we've got our UMP Apex 0.35, we're at about 20 psi, and we're going to put down 3 coats of this. So the first off is a tack coat. So we're not going for a glossy coat at all. This is a protective coat for the decals, so they don't get absolutely swamped. And more importantly, it's a tack coat for the subsequent wetter coat. So this is put on, it's left to off gas for 10 minutes or so, flash off. It will go unbelievably sticky, which you'll feel on your gloves if you get it on your gloves when you're spraying. And then when you come in with the wetter coats for coats 2 and 3, you seriously, drastically reduce the risk of any runs, because the paint is so sticky, it just sticks to itself. So yes, there's a reason for this process. So it's a tack coat and then 2 wet coats. But I tend to do a tack coat, a semi-wet coat, a semi-wet coat, let it settle for a minute, and then go over any bits that need going over again. I do it a little bit differently. It's just the way I've been doing it lately. But just go around every area, every recess, every nook and cranny, wheel arches, the lot, and just put down on the first coat a very fine tack coat. So I've left the whole process in real time. Between each one of these coats we'll leave 10 minutes. I've got my full face Scott respirator on with the best filter I can have for this without going air fed. I'm double gloved on the hand, I'm gloved on the other hand, double gloved on this left hand because that gets covered in 2K. I've got my A300 bench vent on as well. That's been running for a good 10 minutes before we started painting. And yeah, that's the most protection I can give myself. Keep your face, your eyes, as much skin as you can covered. I haven't got a sleeve on. I really should, but I didn't this day. I completely forgot. So naughty me. I normally do. And exactly the same on the bonnet hood. We give it a light tack coat. So nothing too crazy. Just enough of a clear coat to get a nice even texture down. So at this stage you get a hair like this. You can grab it out if you're careful. There you go. And then just go over it again lightly with the airbrush. Sadly, with the nature of clear coats, it's going to attract dust, hair, and all kinds of things floating around in the atmosphere. It's just one of those things. So that's been left for 10 minutes to flash off. We're back now for coat number 2. So this is a much more wetter coat, so a lot slower. We're a little bit further away from the model, and we're applying a little bit more clear coat this time, and we're just going for a semi-gloss. So it's not going to be a full gloss coat, but it's going to be enough of a clear coat that we start to see a bit of depth in the paint. So don't go mad. Don't be too tempted to put too much down. Just do nice slow passes going on and off the air, on and off the model at each pass. I'm just going to build it up. Methodically going all around the model until it's fully covered. Now, I've used lots of clear coats over the years, and for me, the Gravity 2K is the easiest to use for the best results, in my opinion. The only other one that comes close is the Pro Range 2K I used to use. And the main benefit of the Pro Range is it's cheap. It's £20 for half a litre. You're never going to use all that whole can. You're probably going to end up throwing some of it away. I used to throw loads away because the hardener's got a shelf life of about 6 months, I think it is. So if you can share it with somebody, by all means do it. Now, the only thing I would say is the Pro Range doesn't have the optical clarity that the Gravity does once it's done. And even when polished, it doesn't give you the same optical clarity. When you look at the paint, you can see kind of like wavy lines. It's not orange peel, it's just an imperfection in the paint. Whereas the Gravity gives a much more optically clear coat. So that's my opinion on it. Either way, you can't go wrong. They are two of the best clear coats out there, I think. If you can't use 2K and you can use a rattle can, spray can, I would go with the Mr. Hobby Super Clear UV Cut Gloss. And if you can't use those and you want to use water-based, I would recommend Aqua Gloss, or the Winsor & Newton water-based clears would be my recommendation. So there's a second coat done. We'll come back with a third coat, which we kind of apply in the same way. We're not aiming to get a perfect clear on this coat instantly. We'll just go around putting a nice even coat round, and then what we'll do is we'll pop that back in the box for a couple of minutes and then pull it back out. And if we've got a perfect panel, we'll leave it be. If there's a little bit of orange peel, we'll give it another pass lightly over the top. And I'm finding doing this and getting a much better clear coat with much less risk of any runs in the paint. So you could just do the clear 3 coats as I used to do, but you've got to put it on a little bit heavier to make sure you get that full clear coat. Whereas I'm finding doing this second semi-wet coat, putting it away for let self-level and coming back, is definitely making a difference to the finish. I'm getting much better clear coat at the minute. I'm much happier with the results. But you can start seeing some depth and metallic flake coming through on the paint. It is a very pretty colour, and I know it's going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I really like it. I think it's a great colour. It's a great period colour for this car, and I think it's going to look great once it's all built up. So like I say, just methodically going around, making sure we've got a nice even coat everywhere. And then, as you can see, it's not quite perfect. You see it on the trunk, the boot lid. There's a little bit of orange peel, but pop that back in your case for a couple of minutes and it will self-level a bit more by itself. And you can have a look. Rather than hosing on the paint now, maybe putting too much down, which is just as detrimental as putting not enough on, we can let it self-level a couple of minutes and come back and have a look. So I'll literally just sit 2 minutes, let it self-level, pick it back up and have a look. And you may find the odd spot. On this one, I think it was the bottom of the sill and one part of the wing just need a little bit go over. So a couple of minutes have elapsed. We get everything back out and have a quick look. The bonnet looks really good. Yep, so I can go back in. That needs no more clear coat on it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to angle this towards the light above my booth. You can see the bits of dust we've got on there. Real shame, but we'll get rid of those with polishing later anyway. And I'm just checking every single square centimetre of that. I can just see a little bit on the bottom of the sill. Just needs a little bit. There's a light pass there, and it'll self-level again. And then we're just using that light to check everywhere. I think that little front fender there, that wing, needs a touch more as well. because what you see here now is how it will dry. Near enough how it will dry. So if you have orange peel now, it will dry with orange peel. So if you can put more paint on, doesn't need a lot, and get it to be crystal clear and glossy like that is on mine, that's exactly what you want, because that is how it will then dry. Now 2K needs to be above 15 degrees centigrade, which is what, about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, to make sure, no it's not, it's, hang on, 1530. So it's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit to work properly. That's how its chemical reaction works. My cave's usually in the 20 degrees department, so I have no problems. And I believe 2K likes light to dry as well. So make sure you keep them, don't put them in a dark box. Mine go in see-through boxes. But again, I'm just using the light. I'm doing a visual inspection of everywhere over that model. As you can see, we've got a nice glossy orange peel free finish. And here we are. This is about 3 hours later, 4 hours later. And I'll just pop some pictures up to have a look. And you can just see colour is beautiful. It looks different under this camera to the video camera. This one darkens everything a little bit. But the pigments aren't too bad. The beautiful gold pigment in the paint. Really, really nice. Clear coat is beautiful. Like I say, we've got a few specks of dust in there. That's going to happen. It can't be helped, unfortunately. But the clear coat's spot on. We'll let that cure for 5 to 7 days. Give it a flat back with some micro mesh and give it a polish up with the UMP polish system. And it'll look really, really good. The metallic writing looks good. The decals look great. And the stripes on the bonnet have turned out really well as well. So there we go. Let's go back to me. Right, and there we go. So not bad at all. Do you know what? For an older kit, that's gone together really well. Much better than the AMT Super Beer build. Everything's straight on this and looks to be much better quality. So fingers crossed the rest of the build will go okay. For a 36-year-old kit, the decals went down amazing. The body was really clean. It's all straight. Went down really well. I think the only thing I wasn't impressed with is the scale finishes paint. Not liking that stuff at all. Definitely would be buying any of those. A few of the lads have been on at me to go and have a look at them. Colours are lovely. The colour's beautiful. I just don't like the way the paint spray at all. No, I'm sticking with my usual Gravity Zeros and Tamiya's for this, I think, in future. But yeah, it's gone down well. The clear coat's nice. That's curing as we speak in the box behind me. A few bits of dust in it, like I say, but we can deal with those. Dust is inevitable in clear coats. We'll flat it back and polish it. And yeah, we can crack on with this build. So there we go. That's part one of that out of the way. As always, want to support the channel as a Patreon me, a PayPal me, and a Buy Me Coffee link in the description down below. You can help keep these videos going by supporting myself and all the work I do making these videos. There's links to everything else down there. The USACC Facebook group will be there. And there's links to ISM, Facebook, forum, my personal modelling page, UMP Retail, Starring and Machine, which is my other Facebook group if you're into anything car or automotive related, real life and modelling. We share both over there. You can come over and join me there. There's an email address to get in touch with me down below should you wish, and I'll link to my stash as well if I look through my kits. And that's it. So I'll be back with part 2 at some point in the future. I've got lots of projects on the go at the minute. The Monogram Hero build is ongoing. We've got the RS6 Audi Alpha models build going. This one, and I've got loads of builds planned for the future. And make sure you go and watch that awesome review of the 12 scale Ferrari 250 GTO from Monogram Hero, because that thing is epically cool. Very, very good. So there we go. Thanks for watching today. Make sure you sub to the channel, click the bell notifications to get notified of the latest videos. Give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. Do appreciate all the comments you leave down below. And enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.